Alright guys, Rich here from the RCNetwork.com, bringing you another review of a remote control vehicle. Now, of course, in front of you, we have the Tekno EB48.3, which is Tekno's newest 1/8 scale four-wheel drive electric buggy. Now, I picked this thing up in 2015 around July, and I've had quite a bit of time under my belt now driving the Tekno, getting used to it, and really enjoying this platform. Now, of course, way back when, about 2013, I actually picked up a SCT 410, which was Tekno's short course truck, kind of their originating item for making a full-fledged vehicle. And I've got to say, they've done a huge, tremendous leap on their point 2.3 items. So they've actually upgraded the complete snot out of these vehicles. You know, there's pretty much nothing that you need to upgrade on these things. These things are super tank-built RC vehicles. So in this review, I'm going to be telling you kind of my opinions on it, definitely some positives, some negatives, and whether or not you should actually pick one up in the end. So right away, let's go ahead and start off with some of the negatives. We'll end on the positives. And for each vehicle, I kind of sit down with it, you know, like I'm going to interview it, and, you know, just kind of go over the pluses and minuses I've seen throughout the months of driving it, working on it, and, you know, getting used to the platform. So the first thing here is going to be a negative, which is the tall shock towers. Now, if you didn't know, the Tekno uses almost a Truggy sized shock and shock tower. So they're huge. They stick up way over the cab of the body, and unfortunately they do get hit by things if you're not the best clean driver. So I have bent one of these shock towers. Now, these are CNC'd machined shock towers. They're not like a stamped aluminum, and actually bent one of these, so did have to replace that, which was kind of a bummer. That's the only thing that's actually broken or bent on this Tekno. So you can kind of see how far that thing sticks up over the cab. So, you know, kind of misfortunate there, but, you know, that's kind of the positive end of things too. There's just gobs of suspension. Another another negative here is going to be the narrow chassis. Now, if you see here, this chassis is basically about 5 inches in width, and with that, you kind of have to cram in all the electronics. I mean, they are just literally stacked on top of each other inside of the chassis here. You can kind of see that we have, you know, servo, ESC, motor, battery, everything kind of crammed in there. And, you know, that is a slight negative on my book. And, you know, it's kind of funny, when I was doing the positives and negatives on this Tekno buggy, a lot of the positives were actually negatives and vice versa. I mean, it's a double-edged sword on a lot of them. Although that the chassis is very narrow, the positive is this buggy is super maneuverable. So, you know, we'll get to that here in a second. Now, with that part support, you know, pretty much you got Tekno. They're pretty much global now, and you do have definite part support throughout the country, throughout the world. But with that, you don't have many upgrades available from aftermarket vendors. So pretty much Tekno is the only thing out there supporting the vehicle. You do have a couple of, you know, upgrades and things, like you have bodies from Proline Racing. Of course, wheels and tires, there's tons of companies. I have a DE Racing skid plate on this, so there's just very few items that you can actually get that's made specifically for the EB48.3. Now, with that, if you're looking for a flashy vehicle or things that have lots of, you know, anodized aluminum, bright color items, this is not your vehicle. This thing is super stealth. All of the upgrades on it are either black or a dark kind of gunmetal gray. There's no flash to this vehicle. This is stealth as you can get it. Everything's blacked out. I mean, it's upgraded to the hilt, but if you're looking for that flash or that orange anodized aluminum, not going to be this buggy. So that's the negatives. I mean, a lot of the negatives were just very minor items, but in the end, those were the negatives. Now positives. All right, let's get to this thing. I have kind of a laundry list here of positives on this buggy. The first thing is it's super upgraded. Like I said before, I mean, everything was upgraded when I was building this. I'm like, really? Like, I was kind of trying to make a list when I was building it of what I needed to upgrade, and there was nothing on this thing. I mean, everything was upgraded out of the gate. Now, to give you an idea, this comes with the lightened out drives on all the differentials. That was an upgrade on the previous version. You know, you have an aluminum Ackerman. You have the aluminum center drive shaft. I mean, everything was aluminum. Aluminum shock caps, that was an option prior. So this thing is just super upgraded. All of the hinge pin holders are all the machined aluminum. That was an upgrade prior. So super good job on Tekno's part. Easy to drive. This is probably one of the easiest buggies to drive out there. If you're the type of driver that likes to maneuver or whip jumps, this is the buggy. Super maneuverable with that narrow chassis. You can really throw this thing around, and it always lands for some reason on the rubber side. So it makes me look like a little bit better driver. Now, as far as the maneuverable part, with that narrow drive or chassis here, it's super maneuverable. You know, like I said earlier, a lot of the other e-buggies out there have a much wider, like an 8-inch chassis on it. They make them a little bit more stable. So this thing, maneuverability, super A+ on that portion. Now, as far as durability, like I said, I've bent the front shock tower, kind of a freak accident, but nothing else is broke on this thing. I mean, this thing is built like a tank, and let me give you an example of why I say it's built like a tank. Let's take a look at these arms right here. Solid. This is solid plastic, and if I can get up close, look at that thing. Let's take a look at the rear. Solid. I mean, you got some rod ends peeking out there from the shocks, from the sway bar. Solid. Completely solid. I mean, this thing is just built like a tank. It can take abuse. I've went out and bashed this thing recently. I hand my controller over to, you know, novice or beginning drivers, and they have a blast with it, and they can drive this thing super, super easy. So, well, guys, that is all the positives here. As far as the electronics that I chose for this thing, Tekno Electronics, I'm running the T8. This is the 1900 kV RX8 Gen 2. I do have a pretty powerful servo in this thing. This is the 9380. I think this thing cranks out about 400 inches of torque. Running some of the low pro Reedy batteries in this thing, super low profile, 5200 milliamp. You know, with that, you know, the body on this thing is a little bit odd because it's super low slung, so you do have to run the lower batteries in this thing. Like I have this super kind of high 5400 milliamp battery here. Can't quite fit it in there. I actually, one of my running videos, you actually see that the body is kind of off kilter there in the video, and that was kind of a bummer. So, but you know, you do also have kind of a offset chassis. So you have the cab right here, and you can kind of see how a little bit bigger on this side versus this side. So kind of strange, but it ends up working out in Tekno's favor. So, well, guys, that is my full review here of the Tekno. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, maybe learned something about Tekno racing. I enjoy their vehicles. They're built like tanks, super easy to drive. I enjoy them. Well, guys, that's it for now. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to post that on down below. And as always, thumbs up and subscribe. That's it for now, guys. Over and out.